So does Gen AI destroy talent? It's something I've been thinking about ever since Dolly seriously came out because I personally have just never been a visual person. I just really suck at photography and painting and drawing and all these things. It always befuddled me. It's just not how my mind works. But I've always been like a very conceptual person, like thinking about ideas and premises and things like that. And I also haven't had to be honest, not a very strong talent for dialogue either. Definitely maybe not a cinematographic mind as well. I've tried a lot at those things. And so I wonder, is Gen AI coming in and disrupting that in particular? Like, I wonder, is Gen AI destroying talent as a measure of success or a potential measure of success? Because I do think, like, people who can sing, for example, like great singers, and I've loved so many singers, right? From Lata Mangeshkar to, Nora Jones to, SZA or what have you, like amazing singers from the ages. And the debate or the philosophical debate for me with these singers was always that these were people who were, it's God given in some ways, so to speak. Like it's something that has been gifted to you by DNA, the universe, whatever you believe. It wasn't something that you necessarily honed, although if you do have talent, you can hone it into into a great talent, for example, or it's maybe a little semantical, but I mean, like there are plenty of people out there who love to sing who just suck at singing because fundamentally they were not given because of their DNA and a fluke of their vocal cords that they don't have that. I mean, like I absolutely adore Freddie Mercury, but Freddie Mercury is a once in a generation, once in a billion people voice that we might not see for a long time. But is that fair? I guess it's my question. On one side, like 100% Freddie Mercury is deserving of the accolades and what he became. I adore Freddie Mercury. He's easily one of my favorite singers of all time. To me, maybe the GOAT of singing. But is it fair that he gets to be the one? And aside from the fact that, yes, he put in the work of learning opera and all these things, and that is its own thing. And maybe there's a whole conversation to be had about, is hard work itself a talent? Right? Like being able to sit there for 10 hours straight or, 100 hours or 200, 300 hours a week or a month or whatever to learn a talent because you purportedly love it. Now, is that necessarily a talent too, or a luck as well? Because who has time for that? Who has the health for that? Some people just can't sustain doing that hard work for that period of time. They have to take a rest because maybe they might be neurodivergent in a particular way or physically impaired in some other way, and so they can't sustain hanging out for that long to do that thing. So it's like a configuration of many luck and talent to become something really great, right? And also, like, what happens if someone was really, really great and then, like Satoshi Kon, for example, who is one of the greatest directors of all time to me, an anime director. He made Paprika and Tokyo Godfathers, like died like at 45 or something from cancer. So like what a luck of the draw. Same thing with Stanley Kubrick, right? Like great directors that didn't get to see themselves become the villain, like didn't see themselves to make crappy projects, but also didn't maybe get to spend another 20 to 50 years on their craft, like Akira Kurosawa, for example, who has a 60, 70 year or what have you period of time just making his art and becoming one of the greatest filmmakers Japan has ever seen, and definitely slipping along the way, but making, like, going from Seven Samurai and then making Ron, right? Like, I think separated by like 20 to 30 years of difference, but he had good health to stretch all the time. Same thing with Hayao Miyazaki, right? Studio Ghibli. Like, he has been crushing it since what, the 80s or the 90s up until 2023 or 2022 when The Boy and the Heron came out and getting an Oscar. Like, that, not only is he a talented and he has that specific skill set, he put in the hard work, he met the right people, Isao Takahita, like he met his collaborator, and also had the good health to be able to last that long, right? So, like, what if Satoshi Kon was still alive? What would the world look like? What would anime look like if Satoshi Kon was alive while Miyazaki was alive? And what kind of films would they create? Like, the world would be so different, to me at least. And so that does make me think, to come back to Gen AI, like, what does this all mean for Gen AI? Because Gen AI is fundamentally disrupting that aspect of talent, right? Like, I don't have to go to art school now to be able to create a painting on the level of someone who spent 10 years, which is horrible on one side, that I'm undercutting the schooling that they did, right? That I can just learn how to text prompt and maybe some photoshopping and get to something that I need, and not having to have to hire someone to do that for me for, like, say, a few $100s, what have you. At the same time, from a meta philosophical side of things, what is good about that democratization? What is good philosophically, meta-wise, about what that means for everybody, in a way that, hey, I don't have to go to that school? Because what does going to that school mean? Going to art school means that I would have had to afford it, had the time to do it, maybe had the upbringing that allowed me to do art, right? Like, how many people do art, and how many people are privileged enough to do art because they had the space to do so, or the willingness or the craziness to do that, right? Whereas now, hey, I can do some art because almost casual at this point. So I don't honestly know that I have the answer to this question, but I do have kind of a question or a curiosity around, what does it mean when talent matters less? When talent is a less relevant measure of a person's output, where, let's think about the greatest actors in the world. Like, they're extremely talented. They are born with a sense of emotion and a sense of humanity and a sense of character and story that is consolidated and cohesive inside of their one personality of the Daniel Day-Lewis and his ability, and definitely his craft and his skill that he's honed over 20, 30, 40 years. But it started with this talent, right? And hey, I mean, Hollywood and the rest of the world of actors, it's extremely competitive space where only a few people get those jobs. And there's a luck of the draw there, there's a talent there, there's all that. Now, how does that fundamental thing, those aspects, those values get disrupted at the fundamental level where, hey, I don't have to go to acting school. I can sit in my room and play a character. I can use AI to enhance it to have the emotions that I want it to have. And I can change myself into a different character as well. All of that from my desk without the talent. And so without the schooling, without all of that. And so what does that mean? I honestly don't know, but it's a more fundamental democratization that I don't think we've ever felt or seen before, because it cuts deeper at the core of who people consider themselves to be. It raises the question of, I think, who are you, right? Like, who are you fundamentally? Like, I think oftentimes we tend to define ourselves by our jobs or our talent or our luck even, or our standing, things that are out of our control, our beauty even, right? Like, people are just so elated to hear that, hey, you're handsome, you're beautiful, which is fair. These people are handsome, beautiful, but that wasn't something that they were in control of. It was something that was given to them by their parents, by the luck of the draw of genetics. And the same thing is true of talent. The same thing is true in some ways of our social standing, economic standing. And I wonder now, what does AI do to that? Not just creative AI, but also like intelligence AI, right? LLMs, where they're going to give everybody in their pocket a PhD level intelligence. And what does that mean? I didn't have to go to school for that kind of intelligence. I didn't have to, be raised by people who emphasized education such that I chose, hey, I'm going to become a PhD in this thing or that thing or physics or the humanities or sociology or whatever, I'm now being graded on something else that isn't necessarily my control. And how do I see myself within that? How do I see what am I in the midst of a world in which AI is going to say, hey, this talent that you have, not that important. Hey, this advantage that you have of art and skill, not that important. This intelligence that you have, not that important, et cetera. And how do I then figure out what is the unique thing about me? Anyway, I only have questions about this, but I am simultaneously curious and even honestly optimistic about what this means. Because I do think that talent and luck and other things like that are denominators that deserve being disrupted. Because as much as I love Freddie Mercury, I want also a person that doesn't sing very well to be able to sing, honestly, to be able to make songs that speak to them, that speak from them. And I hope that AI kind of helps with that in some form, in some way. And of course, there's all this other controversy, and I'm sure I'm not addressing it. So please jump in the comments or what have you. But those are my thoughts about, whether or not AI is disrupting talent. Is it democratizing it? Is it changing the way that we organize what we think about as meaningful in our lives and how we define ourselves in it? So thanks for watching, for getting this far. Talk to you in the next one.